back to WMAC Now with your host, Chuck Stevenson, and welcome to another edition of the WMMA Scene Report, our weekly show where we talk about the news, weekly results, upcoming fights, you name it. If it's happening within the women's divisions of mixed martial arts, we're probably going to talk about it. Most likely, we're going to talk about it. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a comparison between One Championship's One Warrior Series and the Dana White Contender Series and how they compare to each other, the flaws and positives for each one. But first, let's go where we always go to first, this past weekend's fight results. So first up, we're going to go to One Warrior Series. There was 3 fights on here. First up was Win Ha versus Christy Obst. Christy Obst defeated Win Ha via KO in the first round. Ha fell to 2-1. Obst climbed to 2-0. This is a nice knockout here by Obst, keeping Ha on the outside of her shots. Obst landed a very nice straight punch that really hurt Ha, and then followed it up with a nasty right hook that dropped Ha, and Obst followed her and landed 2 more punches to the turtled Ha, causing the referee to stop it in the first round. I think it was like maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Next up, Michelle Ferreira defeated Nyreen Crowley via technical submission due to armbar in the first round. Ferreira climbed to 4-1. Crowley fell to 3-2. I thought Ferreira was running the show in this fight. Led up to that nasty armbar. Crowley's arm was bent all kinds of weird ways, and the referee stopped it out of fighter safety. Crowley complained at first. Her corner complained pretty loudly too, because she didn't tap. She didn't even shout out. And, a lot of time these ladies are very flexible, a lot more flexible than men, and they can get away with those hyperextensions and those weird twists to their arms. But Crowley calmed down pretty fast too, the referee said, I got to watch out for your safety. So. And then finally, last ladies fight, Ji Yeon-sa defeated Rosel Catalin via TKO in the first round. This fight, I think, was a little less than 2 minutes, maybe a little more than 2 minutes. Sa climbed to 9-4. Catalin fell to, I don't know what her exact record is. According to Tapology, she would fall to 1-2. One website had her at 3-1 before this, so she'd be 3-2 according to that website. Sa was definitely the bigger fighter, taller fighter, rangier, but Catalin decided to clinch with her, and they were exchanging knees in the corner. Sa spun him out, dragged Catalin down the ground, spun around to take her back. Catalin rolled over, giving Sa the full mount, and Sa just started landing ground and pound and really started picking her shots and landed enough hard shots for the referee to stop it. So that was One Warrior Series. Number 9. All 3 of those fights were in the women's atomweight division at 115, strawweight, in other words. So now we talked about this past weekend's results. Let's get into the news and announcements. All right, first up, Bellator has a fight announcement for February 22nd in Dublin at strawweight, which they don't really even have a strawweight class. Danny Nealon 1-0 taking on Kiara Penko 4-1. Penko is the former EFC Africa champion. So it's a nice little Ireland versus Italy fight there. UFC 246 going down January 18th in Las Vegas, and that was a bantamweight fight. Holly Holm 12-5 taking on Raquel Pennington, and this was who is 10-7, and this fight was rescheduled from UFC 243 back in October. That Holm had to draw out. She tore her hamstring, so I guess it healed up pretty fast. Ryzen Fighting Federation announced a fight for its New Year's Eve show. Ryzen 20 and was that 50.8 kilogram catch. So looking at about 112. It's a rematch from a Bellator fight back in June at Madison Square Garden. Lindsey Van Zant is going to be rematching Reina. So Van Zant 7-2, Reina is 9-3. And as I said, it's a rematch. Van Zant choked Reina out in the first round in that first fight. This time it'll be in the Ryzen ring under Ryzen rules. Okay, Combate Americas. Their Tito versus Alberto card is this weekend, Saturday the 7th. They announced a 118 catchweight fight between Dolce Garcia, a pro wrestler known as Sexy Star. She's 1-0, and she is taking on Annalie Lopez Hernandez, making her pro debut. Moving along, another UFC announcement. UFC Fight Night, February 15th in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. A bantamweight fight is going down between Macy Chiasson, 5-1. She's taking on Nico Montano, who is 4-3. So Chiasson is the winner of the Ultimate Fighter, the heavy hitters won the featherweight division. Montano won, I believe it was number 25, the flyweight season. Now they're both fighting at bantamweight. So two tough champions meeting in the division between where they won the show. Moving along, One Championship announced 2 fights for their card anew tomorrow on January 10th in Bangkok. At strawweight, Stamp Fairtex 3-0 is taking on Pooja Tomar 4-3, and Ayaka Miura 9-2 taking on Mara Mazar 6-2, and that's going down at flyweight 125 pounds. Another Bellator announcement. This one is for their Japan card, December 29th at Saitama Super Arena. It's going to be at Super Atomweight, 108 pounds. Kana Asakura, 15-4, is taking on Jamie Hinshaw, 4-3. And this is going to be in their post-lim section, which consists of basically Ryzen fights within the Bellator cage. Ryzen rules, Ryzen scoring within the Bellator cage. Lost my place there. Okay. Announcement out of the UFC. Back to the UFC. A couple more announcements from them. First up, at their fight night in Brasilia, Brazil on March 14th, flyweight fight between Mayra Bueno Silva, 6-0, taking on Marina Moroz, who is 9-3. And then at their fight night in London, that's March 21st, is a flyweight bout between Molly McCann, 10-2, versus Ashley Evans Smith, 6-4. That's definitely one I'm looking forward to. I like what I've been seeing out of McCann lately. And hopefully Evan Smith can figure out what she's doing down there at flyweight. Two more UFC announcements. First up, this one is being targeted for UFC Fight Night New Zealand, 23 February. A strawweight bout between Yan Xiaonan, 11-1, and Karolina Kowalkiewicz, 12-5. This is a fight that's going to tug at my heartstrings. I don't want to see either fighter lose. I like to see both win. Very exciting. Yan is on a 4-fight win streak, and Kowalkiewicz is on a 3-fight losing streak. So either Yan climbs it to 5-0 in the UFC, or Kowalkiewicz comes that much closer to being cut. And then a verbal agreement for UFC 248 March 7th between Weili Zhang, the strawweight champion, 20-1, and Joanna Jędrzejczyk, 16-3. And of course, will be Zhang's first title defense. Again, very excited about that one. March can't come soon enough. And then finally, a fight announced for Deep 93rd Impact, December 15th. In the strawweight division, Miki Hano taking on Ji-Yun Park. Both are making their pro debut. Hano is out of Abe Ani Combat Club, big-time gym for lady fighters in Japan. Megumi Fujii, one of the all-time greats, trained there. Reina trains there. A whole bunch of female fighters have trained there. And then Park is going to be the first female fighter representing the Stun Gun Gym out of Korea. Dong Hyun Kim is breaking away from Team Mad. He owns two gyms under the Team Mad name, and now they're going to be under the Team Stun Gun moniker, and Park will be the first female out of that gym. So that was the news. Let's move along to... No, usually I do the rankings, right? Let me see if there's any updates to the UFC rankings real quick here. I doubt it because there were no UFC fights this past weekend, but let's check just in case. So, no changes in the UFC rankings for the second week in a row. Good. It means nobody's screwing up. Which moves us along to a little segment we like to call Welcome to the Scene. Welcome Psy Galaxy, the newest name subscriber. So we always welcome the newest name subscribers every week, and like to just recognize and say, hey, thank you for subscribing. So if you have, if your subscriptions are on public and you subscribe, then it'll let me know, and I'll be naming you up here as well. Which brings us along to our upcoming fights for this weekend. Let me bring those up here real quick. First up, at One Championship, Mark of Greatness, going down in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. There's two ladies' fights. Before I get into these, a lot of the fights this weekend, I'm not making picks for, I'll be honest. I just either don't know anything about some of these fighters, or I did not have time to study tape on them. So first up is, looks like a flyweight bout, or bantamweight bout, 135 pounds, between Savannah M taking on Rayanne Bastos. M is coming in 3-0. Bastos coming in 3-0-1, coming off that lone draw. Stats-wise, M is the older fighter, 27 years, to the Brazilian Bastos is 20. And let's see. Looks like M is slightly taller, 5 feet 4 inches, 163 centimeters, to Bastos is 5 foot 3 inches, 160 centimeters. I'm not making a pick on this one. Really don't know anything about them too much. And then moving up along to, not the co-main event, the featured bout beneath it. And this is going to be at strawweight, 115 pounds. Gian Radzuan taking on Denise Zamboanga. Gian Shadowcat Radzuan coming in 5-1. She's coming off a win over Jo Marie Torres, preceded by her lone loss to Gina Iniong via split decision. Zamboanga, of course, coming in 5-0 with a perfect record. I don't know Radzuan's age. Zamboanga is listed at 22. And height, they have an identical height of 5 feet 2 inches, 157 centimeters, according to Tapology. Okay, so I'm going with Radzuan on this. And I'll tell you why. Radzuan actually, all of her wins, except for her first win, are over fighters that actually have experience and winning records. Whereas I look up Zamboanga's record. Let's see. 0-0, 0-0, 0-0. So debut, 0-1. And that was last year in September. So out of 5 fights, her opponents have a combined record of 0-1. So I'm picking Radzuan to win this. I don't care that Zamboanga is the training partner of Sam Fairtex, and that she's training out of the Fairtex gym lately. Don't give a crap. There's no way I'm picking a fighter to win that can't even, get in there with someone with any experience or any wins. Whereas Radzuan, she's been fighting on the lower end of the One Championship 115-pound division, but at least she's fighting fighters that are getting in there and knowing what she's doing. So we're going with Gian Redgwin on that one. That's Friday morning, East Coast time. Also Friday, this will be in the evening, is, what do they call it? Prospect FC 12, coming out of Windsor, Ontario, Canada. It's going to be what's this fight listed as? Strawweight, between Randy Field, 1-0, taking on Melissa Karagiannis, 3-5. Of course, Field coming off her successful pro debut. Karagiannis is currently on a 3-fight losing streak. First to Jimmy Hinshaw via submission. Then Kana Asakura in Ryzen, lost a unanimous decision. And then about a year ago, she lost via TKO to Lindsey Van Zandt. Karagiannis will be the older fighter, 31, to Fields, 29. And Karagiannis is 1 inch taller, 5 feet 4 inches, 163 centimeters. To Fields, 5 feet 3 inches, 160 centimeters. I don't know anything about Field, and Karagiannis has not been looking good her past several fights, but I'm going to go with her via experience. And it's not as if she's losing to, scrubs. She lost to Cynthia Arcio. Arcio was the King of the Cage strawweight champ. Lost to Hinshaw. Hinshaw is or was the KOTC atomweight champ. Lost to Kana Asakura, Ryzen super atomweight tournament winner. And then Lindsey Van Zandt, who is Invicta and Bellator veteran. And now she'll be going to Ryzen. So I'm not fully comfortable picking Karagiannis, but we are going to go with her. Which brings us along to Saturday. First up, at KSW 52 in Gliwice, Poland. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And I hope I pronounce these names right. Karolina Avzars coming in 2-0, taking on Alexandra Rolla, coming in at 3-0. This is going to be at flyweight. Rolla is the older fighter, 28, to Avzars, 26. Avzar is slightly taller, 5 feet 6 inches, 168 centimeters, to Rolla's 5 feet 5 inches, 165 centimeters. However, they have an identical reach, 66.9 inches, 170 centimeters. I have my hunch, my gut is telling me to go with Avzars. She has one less fight. However, you look up Rolla, this seems to be her flyweight debut. Her previous 3 fights, her first one was a catchweight fight of 119 pounds, and then her next 2 fights were up at strawweight, or down at strawweight, whereas the Avzars fight is going to be at flyweight. And Avzars, I believe, has only fought at flyweight. Let me see here. Yes, both of her pro fights so far have been at flyweight. It looks like she trains out of the same gym as Karolina Kovalkiewicz, Shark Top Team Lodz. So 2 Karolinas on that team. So my gut is going with Avzars. And then Saturday night, first up is Combate Americas, Tito versus Alberto. You can watch this one. I believe it's going to be available on fight.tv. 2 ladies fights. First up is Dulce Garcia, better known in pro wrestling circles as Sexy Star. She's coming in 1-0. She's taking on Annalie Lopez Fernandez. Don't have anything available for Lopez. Garcia, of course, 1-0. She's 37 years old and 5 feet 3 inches tall, 160 centimeters. You know what? Let's go with Garcia on this one. Just because know nothing about Lopez. Of course, she could come in and surprise us. I wasn't very impressed with Garcia's lone fight earlier this year. But we'll see. I can't imagine Combate's giving her a fight, that she's going to lose very easily. Then the co-main event is going to be the first ever Combate Americas Women's Championship at strawweight. Melissa Super Melly Martinez coming in 6-0. She's taking on Desiree Dirty Des Yanez coming in 5-1. Of course, Martinez undefeated as a pro. Yanez riding a 4-fight win streak dating back a year. Her last win is over Paulina Vargas 5 months ago due to injury, whereas Martinez is coming off a win 7 months ago to Caroline Gallardo via TKO from a knee to the head and punches. A nice finish. Stats-wise, don't have an age for either fighter. Yanez is taller, slightly taller, 5 feet 4 inches, 163 centimeters, to Martinez is 5 feet 2 inches, 157 centimeters. Don't have a reach available for Yanez. Martinez is listed with a reach of 64 inches, 163 centimeters. I really like the striking of Martinez. It's very crisp, very heavy-handed. Yanez is more of a brawler style. You know, she hits a little hard too, and I thought she was doing very well against Paulina Vargas in their fight. Definitely stunned Vargas a few times. I think this will be a good fight, but Martinez definitely hits harder. She definitely has the cleaner striking, so I'm going to go with Super Melly to take this one and become the first Combate America's Women's Champion. So this will actually be the first Combate card in a while that I'll be able to watch. Depending on the price, I have to look it up. Which brings us along Saturday night to the UFC Fight Night, Washington, D.C. First up is a strawweight fight between Verna Jandiroba, coming in 14-1, taking on very short notice replacement Mallory Martin, 6-2, who's coming in for, I want to say, Courtney Casey. Let's see. So Jandiroba is coming off her first professional loss 7 months ago to Carla Esparza. No shame there, former strawweight champ. Martin is riding at least 5-fight win streak. Most recent win was a month ago in Invicta over Cynthia Arcio by unanimous decision. Let's see, Jandiroba is the older fighter, 31 years to 25. Martin is going to be the taller fighter, 5 feet 4 inches, 163 centimeters, to Jandiroba's 5 feet 2 inches, 150 centimeters. However, according to Tapology, they have an identical reach of 64 inches, 163 centimeters. So, breaking these two down, the striking I would give to Jandiroba. Martin's striking isn't very good. Her bread and butter is her wrestling and ground and pound. And that's where Jandiroba excels too. More BJJ than wrestling, but she is very good on the ground as well. And she has been preparing for this fight. I would give the submissions to Jandiroba, ground and pound probably more to Martin. I think when this fight gets to the ground, more like when, it really is going to depend on who gets the takedown first. If Martin gets it, she can definitely ride it out with some ground and pound. If Jandiroba gets it, she's very pressure heavy and goes for submissions. Her last win by submission was when she defeated Janessa Moranjan a year ago to win the Invicta Strawweight Championship. Actually, I think that was to defend it, rather. I'm going with Jandiroba to win this. Martin, she did just fight a month ago, so she still should be fairly fresh. But Jandiroba's been in a full training camp for this fight, and I like her experience. She's more experienced, twice as many fights as, or almost just shy of twice as many fights as Martin. And honestly, she's been up against a consistently tougher array of competition than Martin has been. So I'm going with Verna Jandiroba to win this one. Next up on the card is there another fight? Yes. I think they have the order on this messed up on Tapology. So we'll go to the strawweight fight. Cynthia Calvillo, 8-1, taking on Marina Rodriguez, 12-0-1. Calvillo's coming in on 2 straight wins, preceded by a loss to Carla Esparza. Rodriguez is coming in on 2 straight wins, preceded by a majority draw against Randa Marcos. They're both the same age, 32 years, so unfortunately for Calvillo, she lost pretty much a year due to weed suspension, and then Rodriguez is just getting to the UFC a little late. Rodriguez is going to have a height advantage, 5 feet 6 inches, 168 centimeters to Calvillo's 5 feet 4 inches, 163 centimeters. However, Calvillo slightly catches up on the reach, but still at a slight disadvantage. 65 inches, 165 centimeters for Rodriguez, compared to 64 inches, 163 centimeters for Calvillo. Now, what this fight comes down to is who can apply their game plan and who fights smarter. Calvillo, from what I've seen, is definitely the better fighter on the ground. Hands down, definitely better on the ground than Rodriguez. Rodriguez, I would say, is better on the feet. Really nice Muay Thai. Knows how to use the clinch. Knows how to use her length and reach. One thing about Calvillo is that she has been training over at Tiger Muay Thai for a little while. Training with the likes of Loma Lookboonmee. So she's been working on her Muay Thai. I don't think it'll be enough to catch up to Rodriguez. I mean, that's her bread and butter. However, it could very well be enough to neutralize Rodriguez's striking, and she can use it to get to the ground. So really, if it gets to the ground, it's Calvillo's game. If she can't get it to the ground, then it is most likely going to be Rodriguez. I'm picking Cynthia Calvillo to win this. She just has the higher level experience overall. And that draw against Randa Marcos still sours me against Marina Rodriguez. So I'm going with Cynthia Calvillo to win this one. And I believe this next fight's the co-main event. It's at bantamweight. Aspen Ladd coming in at 8-1, taking on Yana Kunitskaya, 12-4. So Ladd is coming in off the first loss of her career, a TKO loss to Jermaine Darandami. Foxy Kunitskaya, on the other hand, is coming in off of 2 wins over Lena Landsberg and Marion Renaud, preceded by a loss in her UFC debut to Chris Cyborg. Looking at the stats, Kunitskaya is the older fighter, 30 years to Ladd's 24. Kunitskaya is definitely the taller fighter, 5 feet 8 inches, 173 centimeters to Ladd's 5 feet 6 inches, 168 centimeters. Kunitskaya is pretty tall for a bantamweight. And then she'll also have a reach advantage of 68.5 inches, 174 centimeters to Ladd's 66 inches, 168 centimeters. So, I believe Ladd is the favorite. According to Tapology, she's slight favorite, minus 160. Kunitskaya is at plus 130. And I get it. Kunitskaya does have a weakness against wrestlers. She did lose the rematch to Tanya Evinger. But if Kunitskaya can use her range properly and keep Ladd on the outside, she can definitely beat Ladd on the feet. She's definitely a better striker than Ladd is. However, Ladd, her ground and pound's fairly strong. She's a strong wrestler. Although one thing I don't like about Ladd is that she's one of those screamers. She gets on top, starts landing ground and pound, and even though half of them miss, the referee will stop because she's screaming, making it look like she's actually hurting her opponent more than she is. I'm going to go with the betting favorite on this one, Aspen Ladd. I just think that Kunitskaya will have a hard time stopping her takedowns. Which brings us to, that is it for the UFC, which brings us to Sunday. First up at Gratchen, 41.5. I don't know why they number it like this, but they're having a single ladies fight at atomweight. Miki Nakamura taking on Megumi Koshigoe. I guess that's how you pronounce it, Koshigo. I don't know anything about these two, but I just wanted to let you know that there is a ladies fight going on in Gratchen at atomweight, which is one of probably my favorite division. Atomweight and strawweight, definitely. And then at Pancrase, 311 is going to have 3 ladies fights capped off by a strawweight title fight. So first up is going to be a strawweight fight between Diana and Karen Date. I honestly don't know really anything about these fighters. Diana apparently trains out of AACC, Abiane Combat Club. I mentioned them earlier. Date is, part of the Team Date, the idol group MMA fighters, basically. However, she's one of the better fighters out of Team Date. She's either 2-0 or 3-0 as an amateur, both making their pro debut here. I might have mentioned that. So it'll be interesting to see what these two bring. Next up is going to be a flyweight bout between Maria Suzuki, 1-3, taking on Nori Date, who is 3-3. Stats-wise, Suzuki's the older fighter, 25, to Date's 21. Date is the taller fighter, 5 feet 3 inches, 160 centimeters, to Suzuki's 5 feet 2 inches, 158 centimeters. Don't have a reach available for either of these fighters. Suzuki, both of these fighters are more primarily strikers. Suzuki has not been doing very good in MMA. She's only 1-3. Date is 3-3, however. So she's definitely one of the better fighters out of Team Date. Also a striking background with that weird Indian martial art that they train there. Who do I pick? The MMA record says to go with Date. My gut says that Suzuki's the better striker, to go with her. You know what? I'm going to stick with my gut. And honestly, I'm going to stick with my rule when it comes to Team Date. Never pick a Team Date fighter. So I'm going to go with Maria Suzuki here. Yeah, I just have a hard time picking a Team Date fighter to win. Which is going to bring us to either the main event or the co-main event, which is going to be the strawweight title fight between Emi, the Kamikaze Angel Fujino, coming in at 24-11, and she is taking on Hyunji, the Korean Samoan Jan. Let me hold on. As soon as I can bring up the record here. Topology does not have the Pancrase fights up for this weekend for whatever reason. Okay, so Fujino is coming in 24-11. John is coming in 3-2. This is the finals of a 4-fighter mini tournament to determine who will take the vacant strawweight Queen of Pancrase title. Fujino is definitely the older fighter by 14 years, 39 to John's 25. Looks like Fujino's the taller fighter, 5 feet 3 inches, 160 centimeters, to John's 5 feet 1 inch, 155 centimeters. Don't have a reach for Hyunji Jan. However, Fujino is listed with a reach of 61.5 inches, 156 centimeters. You know what? Don't even really have to look at the records or anything to know. This was really set up to be Fujino's title. They put her against... They gave her the tougher fight in the semifinals for this tournament, and she got through there. Her opponent broke her arm. Whereas John was supposed to fight Nori Date. Nori Date missed weight, so John got a bye. But honestly, that was the weaker side of the bracket. I mean, it was only a 4-person bracket, but that was definitely the weaker half, was John versus Date. So I'm going with Emi Fujino to win this. So that is the upcoming fights for this weekend. So let's get into a little bit of discussion. I want to talk about this week. One Warrior Series put on by One Championship versus Dana White's Contender Series. Both are series meant to bring in prospects into the series, the proper big show. They're both, like the feeder show, as it were, for their respective organizations. So I want to talk about, which one is honestly like the better one for like building up prospects, what purpose they serve, and just not really talk about which one is better or which one I prefer. Although I will say that at the end. But just to compare the two, because I think there's a lot of similarities. Now, to me, One Warrior Series combines the best of looking for a fight and the Contender Series, whereas the Contender Series is just a night of fights, and Dana White picks and chooses, who gets called up. All right, so first up, let's look at the actual shows themselves. So the number of fights per show. One Warrior Series, the live show, is usually 13 to 14 fights. Sometimes they're kickboxing or Muay Thai. And then they have several live shows per year. Whereas the Dana White Contender Series is 5 fights per show. And there is usually 10 shows per season, a 10-week season. As far as like shorter programming, stuff that revolves around it, One Warrior Series has a whole season of shows where Rich Franklin, who runs it, and the producer go around. They'll have episodes dedicated to tryouts, open tryouts. They'll go and talk to prospects that are already into One Warrior Series. They'll talk to people that they're looking out for in the future chance of the show. It's actually a really fun show to watch. It's every Monday. It comes out on One Championship's YouTube. Now, as far as the Dana White Contender Series goes, they don't have any shorter programming or nothing that really builds up to it. As far as the stakes go for what you're fighting for, One Warrior Series, you're fighting for a chance for a $100,000 contract to fight in One Championship. Whereas in Dana White Contender Series, if you win, you could get called up to the UFC. Now, both of these stakes for both of these shows are discretionary. Of course, Warrior Series is up to Rich Franklin, and for Contender Series, it's up to Dana White. I don't know what criteria either of them are really looking for. Dana White seems to change it depending on who it is and what week it is, what the weather's like, what his mood is that day, whether or not he took a poop that day. You never know what Dana's going to go for. Mostly he's looking for finishes. The earlier the finish, the better. Whereas One Warrior Series, it seems like Rich wants to look for actual, legit prospects and build them up before moving them into One Warrior Series. Now, second chance. Do any of these fighters get a second chance? So, one thing that I feel One Warrior Series does better than Contender Series is that if you lose, you can still get brought back. I think most fighters do get brought back. And if you win but don't get picked for the contract, you're definitely still going to get to come back and prove yourself again. Fighters might fight 2, 3, 4 times before getting called up to One Championship. Whereas Dana White, there have been I think maybe a few repeat fighters in the Contender Series, but they're definitely the exceptions and not the rule. Now, as far as which one do I feel does a better job of building up prospects? I would say that One Warrior series, at the end of the day, does a much better job of building up prospects, because it doesn't necessarily award a fighter right away with the contract. They might say, well, you did a good job, but, still want to see more from you. So they'll bring them back on the next show or the show after that. And they're usually like every other month. I think they're going to have 6 live shows next year total. So, whereas the Contender series, if you lose, oh well. And if you win, you still might not get the contract. So I feel that the Warrior series, at the end of the day, does a better job of building up actual prospects. And what I've noticed with the Contender series, it looks for a specific type of fighter that they can then sign for cheap. They're looking for like the just bleed fighters that are going to go for the finish as early as possible, even if it's not necessarily the fanciest or nicest looking. They're going for the quick finish. So Contender series is more of looking to sign, just bleed, finish heavy fighters on the cheap. So that's basically my breakdown of One Warrior series versus Contender series. I like them both for different reasons. I've really grown to like the One Warrior series. Of course, they're on like super early in the morning to watch them live, but you can always watch it on a repeat because it's on YouTube or the One Championship app on your phone or tablet or whatever. Whereas Contender series used to be on Fight Pass, now it's on ESPN Plus. So that's my opinions on them. I'd like to hear yours in the comments down below. In the meantime, likes are always appreciated. And hey, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMMA Scene Now, the best, fastest growing women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that bell for notifications. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.